How to stop that? By using stop propagation. We have an stop propagation method. By using that we can do. So what is prevent default and why you need it? Prevent default is used to stop the default functionalities. Default functionality means usually submit button have submit event, reset buttons have reset events. Along with your functionality, the default functionality is also performed. How do we stop that? Prevent default. By using prevent default, we can do that. Can you turn off that light? This light. Now, so usually after understanding those concepts, so I will give a fast summary point here is what is event, what is event handler, what is event listener. So what are event arguments? So what is event propagation? So or you can call as event bubbling. So we have event prevent default. That's one important. These are all generally event related options. And I detailedly explained what are those and how to handle them. And in React, we are learning about synthetic events. Synthetic events. What is a synthetic event? What is synthetic event? It is a events library. So generally on click, on change, all these events belong to browser. Browser which object? Window object. They all belong to browser window object. So if they belong to browser window object, we cannot use them in React because React will not use actual DOM. It uses an virtual DOM. And to deal with virtual DOM, all virtual DOM related events are defined in a library called synthetic event. So synthetic events are the events of React. So you are using synthetic events. These synthetic events are mapped to browser events. They are mapped to browser events. We don't use the browser events directly. So yesterday I explained that process. I showed you how they are derived. So now in React, we will see how to handle the events. So event binding in React. Now we will see how we can do. Under this topic only, you learnt all those points. They are all general things about events in JavaScript. Event binding in React. So here, React uses synthetic events. React uses synthetic events that map to browser events. So on click, so it is a synthetic event. And it maps to on click. This is a browser event. So synthetic events are virtual DOM events. And others are actual browser events. So How do we configure events in React? We will see how we can configure events in React. So already we discussed that event is a function pointer. We are not calling the events. So we are pointing towards the events. So how do we define is, so React uses event handler. React uses event handler that points towards a subscriber function. That points towards a subscriber function. React uses event handler that points towards a subscriber function. Already we learned what is sender and what is a subscriber. The sender and subscriber we already discussed. What is sender and what is subscriber. So React is going to use event handler that points towards the subscriber function. So we have a function, suppose insert click, and this function is pointed through a button on click, insert click. That's how we define. So function insert click. This is one technique. Event handler that points towards a function, we have to just use that insert click. So that is insert click. So let's see in React. Let's add one a simple component I am adding. And in the components, a new one, event demo. Okay. Event demo dot what JSX. So export function event demo and return a simple markup. Okay. Here just I am giving event demo. Okay. Let's keep this in the startup of index. Here we have to use what? Event demo. So the event demo is imported and the event demo is working in the startup. Okay, now how to write event in React? We are having a function. The function is insert click, and this function we have to point from a element. So button is insert. How it uses? It's not on click. It is not valid because this on click belongs to browser. We have to use in a camel case on click, that is, and it points towards dynamically insert click. Now here we can define any functionality alert inserted, something like this. Now you can see that whenever the button insert is clicked, it will point towards that function and it will execute that function inside it. So we are accessing the function and using it. So generally, this is firing the event and displaying. What difference you observed is in your JavaScript, you need to define like a function, but here we just need to define a function name. That is just a function name because you are just using a pointer, it can point towards that. Now, here one speciality about React is by default, this handler can pass event arguments into the function. What are event arguments? Purpose of event arguments? I told you a technical term. What is the purpose of event arguments? I told you a technical term. Event arguments are used to carry the payload. Payload. Remember? Because remember in interviews, you try to explain any answer in a general way as you know about it. They are not satisfied. You may explain it very correctly, but they don't care. Your explanation they don't want. They want only technical word. So you try to explain it in a correct way. Whatever you know, you tell a story to them. They don't care. They simply say that, tell me the correct word. They are not satisfied with your explanations or your general knowledge about the concept. We want technical word. So event arguments are used to deliver the payload. What payload contains? Payload contains information about the event as well as the element. Element related information and event related information is carried. So here, so what is the key point is React event handler. React event handler have default payload. Payload sent to subscriber. Default payload sent to subscriber as event arg, event argument. Event argument. React subscriber function. Subscriber function can access and use the event argument. Argument. So React cannot send data using this keyword. Cannot send data using this keyword. It uses event to send both element and event details. React cannot use this keyword, just like listener. I told you about how event uses. Generally, in event handler, you can have two arguments. One is this, another one is event. And in event listener, you can have only one argument. So the one argument is related to event. Then how that one argument collects event details and object details? Event details it can access directly. Object details are accessed by using target. So these are very important. So here the event and event arguments are important. Remember, these all topics are very important, interrelated. I see that many people not regularly attending the sessions. Remember, in my sessions, if you don't regularly attend, you cannot come into my track. Better leave my batch. You can't handle this anymore. If you day by day or at least for 2 days you are attending these sessions, this batch is not for you. You can't handle anymore. So keep your overconfidence with you only. You can't manage my class if you don't regularly attend, because the concepts are all interrelated. If you miss one session, you can't catch, you can't understand. So regularly attend these sessions, right? If you are not regular, then that's your problem now, because now this is just beginning of React. You will go into more complexity than your .NET and Java. Even your .NET and Java like knowledges are not enough to handle this React. That's the reason you must regularly attend these sessions, otherwise leave it. So take it easy, right? So if you don't regularly attend, this batch will not fit for you. You have to regularly attend this, right? If you missed, you go through the notes, what happened in yesterday's session. Otherwise, you can't manage. It's waste of time for you, right? Regularly, you need to practice. Regularly, you have to attend, because all topics are interrelated. If you missed yesterday's session, you cannot understand event arguments, what is event listeners and all this, because that is the key point for React. So yesterday we discussed all that. So two event arguments are there. One is this, another one is event. But in React, when I say that, it uses only event to send both element details and this. So remember, it is going to send all the details. But one of the important point is, so React passes the default event arguments implicitly. Default event argument implicitly. React passes the default event argument implicitly. So in the handler, you are not passing anything. Just in the function, insert click, you can just use E. What is this E can do? E dot some client X, E dot what client Y, E dot some shift key, control key, like that. E dot target dot value, E dot target dot ID. Like this, you can access. And what about your handler? Button on click uses insert click. Here, you don't need to pass anything. You don't need to pass anything. So implicitly, React event sends a event argument. So just you have to use that event argument. So in JavaScript, what we have done, I showed you in JavaScript, event handler will pass two arguments. One is this, another one is event. But here you don't need to pass. Implicitly, the event argument is passed. Implicitly, the event argument is passed and you can just access it. So implicitly, the event arguments are passed into the subscriber function. This is called subscriber function. And what is this on click, insert click is? It is a sender. Sender sends a notification to the subscriber. So you see now here we are using insert click. And button on click, we have insert click. Here, you just pass an event argument related reference. Here, you don't need to use, because you know function parameters are formal parameters. So actual parameters, formal parameters, you know both. These are in a function declaration, whatever parameters you pass, they are what? Formal parameters. So here we have event argument. So I'm just using console.log. I am printing. So here e dot what client x. Suppose I want to print x. E dot client x. And I want to use slash n because I am using in log console log. And I want some control key. Then I will use e dot ctrl key. I am using, suppose this button have an ID. Button ID is some btn insert. I want that button ID. Then button ID is equal to, what is it? E dot target dot ID. That's how we can access. We can access in that way. Now let's open this, open the console, inspect, and check the console. In that you click on insert, it will get all those details. That means X position is 43, control key not used, button ID is btn insert. In JavaScript, we have to manually pass the event arguments. And in React, implicitly those payload is delivered. You have to just collect them. So we have to just collect and use. Now the question is here, how you pass. I will copy this example. This is an example event demo.jsx. Okay. Now the question is, you are not passing any arguments here, but implicitly event argument is passed. Then how you will pass custom arguments? We want to pass custom arguments. How do you pass custom arguments then? There is no place for any custom argument here. Everything is implicitly done. Question understood? Right? Previously, what we done in JavaScript, we can pass default arguments along with custom. There is no order dependency. You can pass only default or only custom or default and custom both. Now, how you will manage? How you can send the custom argument? So, how we can send custom argument in React? So to send the custom argument, now, if you want to pass any custom argument, that means this is default. Then your insert on click, this on click, this insert click, I am writing like a function. And into that, I am passing some value. Suppose it is a string. You can pass any kind of data. So I am passing a string as hello. Okay. Now I want to collect that here. So I am collecting that here. That means some MSG. And I am using console.log. What is it? MSG. Whatever message is passed, the message is hello, we are collecting and we are printing. Now you see what happens here is it is directly printing that hello. I refresh here, directly it is printing that hello. I click on insert, then it is not working. On insert, it is not working. It is directly printing that hello. That means When a function, when a function is defined with some parameter, directly that function parameter is passed and it is executed. That means usually why we don't follow this technique. We don't follow this technique because this function will be automatically called whenever the button is loaded. That means this markup is loaded into your browser. When markup is loaded into browser, automatically it will see that there is a function call. It will see that there is a function call and it will call that function. It will not wait for you to click. It will not wait for you for click because this is the function call signature. Previously, we are not using function call signature. We are using function pointer signature. In function pointer, it will point towards the function only when you click. But this is a function call signature. So in function call signature, a function will be called automatically when this element is rendered in the page. So in many experience level interviews, they give this syntax and ask what will happen now. So many people will give answer like on click, it will send hello. But without click itself, it will send hello. Why? Because this is a function call signature and function call signature will call the function automatically when a DOM element is rendered in the browser. That means whenever button is ready, automatically it will call the function. That is the reason without clicking the button, it is executing that function. It is passing the parameter, it is collecting it, but it is doing it when you load automatically when it is rendered. So how do you solve this problem? So how to solve this problem is now here we need to configure a function signature. And this is a function signature. What does this means? On click, it will return a function. It will return a function. You know, this is a lambda for return, right? Which function it will return? It will return what? Insert click. And into that, you pass the message as what? Hello. Hello. Now, what happens here is, so when I refresh this now, you can see there is no hello. That means the function is not called. Now what I will do, I click on insert. When I click on insert, now it is there. That means how you can call a custom one. So custom parameter, what you have to define, you have to configure this insert click. Why you return insert click in this way? This indicates that this function will be executed only when this event occurs. That means it is going to return this functionality because it is return implies means return. It will return that function only on this particular trigger. If you don't write this, it is going to execute this function when the element is rendered. But on element render, it should not work. On event, it should work. That means we need to configure it in such a way that it returns on you click, when you click on it. This is very, very important. And remember, this is not required if you are not passing any custom arguments. If you are not passing any custom argument, just a simple pointer is enough. Pointer means what? You will write what? You will simply write only one option. What is it? Insert click. When you want default arguments, also this is enough. But when you want custom arguments, then you have to create a function and that function must be returned on click. So here, another important point. React will not allow to pass custom arguments. Will not allow to pass custom arguments. directly using delegate signature. Delegate signature means what? Function pointer signature. Function pointer signature means, so on click, insert click. This is a delegate signature. Delegate means function pointer signature. You know what is a function signature? Huh? Generally in JavaScript, you learnt about function. For example, we have a function, some insert click, and we have some parameters. Now you learnt in JavaScript. What you learnt in JavaScript, this part is called as what? Function declaration. Function declaration. What is this part is called? This part is called function signature. Function signature. And what is this part called? It is function definition. This is function definition. This is function signature. And this is function declaration. Every function have a declaration, and it will have a signature, and it will have a definition. How you access a function? How you access a function? If anybody asks how you access a function, by using its signature. A function is accessed by using its signature. And what functionality a function does? What functionality a function does? That is decided by function definition. Function definition indicates what is the functionality performed, because it indicates what are the statements to execute when a function is called, right? Because this is the block. This block indicates the definition. Definition means what functionality it have to perform. So function have a declaration, function have a signature, and function have a definition. So here the signature is this. Here one more point is that. So what is that is now, this is the function call. How do we pass custom arguments? So I will give a point here. So what is it? Custom arguments can be passed. Custom arguments can be passed by using custom arguments can be passed by using a function return. By using a function return in event handler. By using a function return in event handler. So how do you write? On click, we need to define a function. Insert click, and here we have to pass the arguments. You have to pass the arguments. And in this case, arguments can be any type. Arguments can be any type. And any number. You can say better any count. That means any count of arguments you can set. Can be any type and any count. That means one argument, two arguments, three arguments. You can send any number of arguments. So for example, now how do we define here is, so we write here, so a function, and this function return should use an insert click. On insert click, we are sending, suppose one, we are sending some TV, we are sending some true, like this. That means now here it is expecting how many parameters? 3. How to collect all the 3 parameters? You can configure as a REST, or you can pass 3 arguments for that, 3 formal parameters, or simply one REST parameter. And what that REST, I am just printing that. Then what happens here is, when you click on insert, it should collect all those 3, because REST is a array type. So at 0, it has 1, and 1, it has TV. This is true. So you can pass custom arguments. Any number of arguments you can pass. Now the question is, okay, now how to pass default and custom? How you can pass default argument and custom argument? Now I will try another, that is E. E is for event arguments. We discussed that event argument can be implicitly sent. Okay, we will try to print that. That means E dot. So just here we will put X. E dot, what it is? Client X. In the next line, we will print the message, MSG. Okay, message. Now what happens here is, we are clicking on this and it says undefined. When you define custom argument through a function return, then default arguments are not passed. Then default arguments are not passed, because you are discarding the default arguments and you are passing your custom arguments. That means when you configure a function return like this, it cannot send the default arguments now. Now here, that is another key point. So if you configure a function return, then it discards the default event argument. Discard means disconnects or disable, or it will not send. It will discard the default event argument. So it will not allow to send those default event arguments. So now how do you send both? How you send both event related details and custom also. Event argument and custom arguments, both how you can send. It's a simple point actually. Now this is the event function. This event function can have an event argument E, because it is a function and it is a function parameter. This function parameter is an event parameter. Now this event parameter, we need to pass through this function. That means what we do here, along with this, we will pass that E also. Now this E we can collect here and we can use that here. That means we are passing default argument as well as custom argument. Now you can see here. So when I click on insert, then it will get it. That means X position is 52. You are sending default argument and you are sending the custom argument. If you want to send both default and custom argument, the default arguments are discarded now. You can't send them. How to send explicitly, you have to send the default argument. So here, what is the point? You have to configure default event argument in function return. You have to configure default event argument in function return. Default event argument in function return. So how do you do that? On click, we have a E, some insert click, we have E and other arguments. Like this, you can define. That means E refers to event argument and other are custom arguments. How do you collect them? So we have a function insert click. It will collect the event and it will collect the arguments. You can collect directly all of them. Individually also you can access. Now, and very important here, if I am using REST, we have to make sure that the REST parameter is last in the formal list. So you pass your event argument here. Through this, all event and element details you can access, and you can pass the custom arguments also. So how we configure event, how do we pass the arguments, how we carry the data from element to the subscriber. These are all the major things for designing complex contents in future. Later, we need to carry data from a button and we need to deliver to some location. These all things you have to manage through these event arguments only. So this is one example to understand how do we write the event. So I will copy this. So we will put it here. This is event demo.what.jss. Okay, one more time I'm showing this. Let's see. So what we want here, we have a button and this button is what? Insert. This button is having an ID btn, some btn insert. Now we will write a function to execute that button. Function is what? Insert click. And this function is expecting default arguments and custom arguments. Then for default argument is E, and first custom arguments, we will use a REST parameter. So REST parameter some args. If you are expecting multiple, then you can collect all of them by using these args. Okay. Next, what in the on click, what we have to do? We have to configure a function. And this function have to return which one? Insert click. Into that insert click, we need to pass E, which is defined in a formal, and we configure that E and we can pass our arguments. Whatever we want. Suppose it is a string. Suppose it is an object. Rate is some 4.2. Suppose it is an array. So we have different types of data. And how do we access that here? So console.log. Suppose I want button ID. How you get the button ID? e.target.id. In the next line, I want the arguments to display. That means just I use what? Args. It is an array. You can also use 0, which is going to return only first one. 1, it is going to return an object. Suppose I return 1 and I return dot rate. That means why? Because it is an object now, and it will get the object property. What is that object property? Rate. It will get that and it will display. We want all the details, just I am giving as what? Arcs. This arcs is going to collect all the detail, and I click on insert, it gets all the information. And of course, this is an object, you have to read its keys. Whatever the keys are present, you need to keep. So this is basically one example here. I will copy another example same. This is related to how you define events, event handlers. Another point is how to configure the event arguments. Here you don't have event listeners. We don't have a event listener. Event listeners belong to what? DOM, actual DOM. Through handlers, we configure all the events and we define all the events, right? Now you are aware of this. Then stop propagation is same. Prevent default also same. What is stop propagation? If a child event triggers the parent also, then through event argument, we can stop propagation. Through event argument, we can prevent default. Those two are same. There is no change in that. So as you saw in your JavaScript, the same you have to implement. In yesterday's session, I clearly showed how to write stop propagation, right? How do we write the stop propagation? For example, you have two options here. Yeah. Suppose you are having a nav and this is a nav bar and we are having a button. So BI some BI search, BTN and BTN some primary. And this nav bar have padding 2, padding 3, BG dark, text white, something. And you can see we have a nav bar and we have a search button. We are writing event for nav bar and search button. So that means we have a function called nav bar click. So click, okay. And alert, it will say nav bar clicked. And we have a function called search click. And we have an alert called search clicked. Okay, now we have to point towards that function. Now on click is what? Nav bar click. And button on click is search click. Now, what is the problem you will face here is when I click on this nav bar clicked will come. And when I click on search clicked will come. And immediately it will trigger the parent also. But after search click, it should stop. It should not invoke the parent. Then after search click, we have to use an event argument E. And what we have to do, E dot what? Stop propagation. Stop propagation. That is important. Now what happens here when you click on this search, then it says search clicked. That's it. It will not fire up the nav. When you click now, it says only now clicked. Otherwise, it is going to populate, right? The same thing you have to follow here also. There is no change. So here, so propagation, propagation of event can be stopped just like in JavaScript, which I already showed you. So E dot what? Stop propagation. Stop propagation. And you can prevent default generic events using the function e dot prevent default. You have to use that prevent default. These two concepts are same. How you stop the propagation and how you stop the default functionality. So they are same, how you define them in JavaScript in a same way. So for example, below this, we are having a section area, and suppose we have a form. So form have a username and input type is what? Text. So, and this form have a name called username, and you have a button. This button is submit, and on submit, so it should point towards a function handle submit. Submit. Okay, we will write a function called handle submit. This function have to put some alert submitted. Okay, but this button that you kept inside the form is a submit button, and submit button have a default functionality. Default functionality of submitting the data, and React recommends, that is the reason it will show a warning now. Later you will learn about forms concept, how to handle, how to collect data from form, use it. It's a separate topic. But whenever you are designing a form and a button inside, React warns you saying that what is this button? Because you know in HTML buttons are three types: submit button, reset button, and button. That means you have to mention the button type. Button type as what? Submit. By default, button type is submit. You can make the button type as button. If you make the button type as button, then it will not have any default functionality. Default functionality will come only when you define button type as reset or button type as what? Submit. So in HTML, you learned buttons three types. So submit button, reset button, and a button. And here, when you keep that submit, what happens is margin top 4. Okay. What happens is you entered some name and click on submit. It will do your work, what work you given. That means it will say submitted. And internally it have some work. It will do that work also. That means when I say okay, it will submit the form data here. This should not happen. Why? Because that is default functionality of submit button, which I want to disable. I don't want that to happen. Then what we have to do? So we have to use a submit event argument, and through event argument, what we have to do? Prevent default. We have to use prevent default. And when we use the prevent default, now you can see, I will load this, and you entered something and click submit. It will do your work, and after that it will stop. It will not do any implicit work. Implicitly, it has some functionality. It will stop that functionality that you can do by using what? Prevent default. In React, these are very important points to remember, because these are the issues that we regularly get when we write events. So how to stop propagation and how to prevent the default, right? This is example event demo.jsx. let me copy this example. These are all the basic about events. That means how to write a handler, how to use arguments, how to use default arguments, custom arguments, how to stop propagation, how to prevent default. Now we will learn about various synthetic events. So React synthetic events synthetic event types. What are the various event types we are having? You know, in JavaScript, event types, and here event types are categorized into several groups. We have mouse events, number one, mouse events. Under mouse events, some categories I will explain one by one, detail we will see. We have mouse events, we have keyboard events. So we have button events. So we have element state events. We have clipboard events. Clipboard events. So we have timer events. We have touch events. So these are different categories of events. So many are there. These are all different categories of events. Mouse events, keyboard events, button events. I hope you learnt all these events in JavaScript. What are mouse events? Mouse over, mouse up, mouse down, mouse move. What are keyboard events? Key up, key press, key down. So button events, on click, on DBL click, on context menu. Element state events, on focus, on blur, on change. These are element state events. Clipboard events, on cut, on copy, on paste. Timer events, set interval, clear interval, set timeout, clear timeout. Touch events, on touch start, on touch end. These are used for touch screens. These are all different types of events in JavaScript as well as in React also. In JavaScript, whatever the events categories are there, the same categories are available here also. But here the usage of events little different, and some event names also change. They are not similar. So only some, others are similar. Now we will see one example with this. Remember, anywhere in React related any tutorial, nobody will teach you about events. You go to any YouTube or any website and see React tutorial. You will never see anything about events much. They will show you only about synthetic events, how to write. That means event handler, event listener, these all they don't explain. Why? Because people who are coming to learn React, they think that they are already aware of all these things. They don't even tell about these events, mouse event, keyboard events, because these are all JavaScript things. And React like people means they already know all this, just they have to implement in React. No React technology will teach you this about events, how to use mouse events, how to use keyboard events. That's not a topic of React. It is a topic of JavaScript. You just implement as it is here. So anyhow, I will give one example on these events to understand how to implement and how to use them, right? So first we will see how these mouse events will work. Mouse events will work. And what are the mouse events? So mouse events, we have on, mouse over. So we have like on mouse over, like on mouse out. on mouse up. So on mouse down. So we have on mouse move. Mouse over, mouse out, mouse up, mouse down, and mouse move. These are related to mouse. These are generally how you use in your JavaScript. Same. Let's see one example here. So, and what are the commonly used event arguments for the mouse is? Already we know event arguments. We can use E to collect the event argument. Let's see what does this are. What does this means? Mouse over, mouse out, up, down. Let's take one example here. Suppose like a Flipkart. In that Flipkart example, so you can see some details here. Okay. Now you can see left side, you have a nav bar. You move the mouse onto it, then that image will come here. That means we are not waiting to click. We are not waiting to click. We are just moving the mouse. That image changes. We are just moving the mouse onto it and that image changes. This is mouse over. On mouse over, what action to perform? On mouse out, and again what action to perform? Mouse over, mouse out. How we can define the actions? Let's design this and see. So it's a simple. You already done these kind of things in your JavaScript. Huh? So for example, I will copy some images that I have. Okay. I have M1, M2, M3, M4. These are JPG files. Huh? It's a PNG file. This is a JPG. Okay. M1, M2, M3, and M4. Okay. I will copy these images and let's keep in our project location. What is it? React project. Okay. We have a React project in that public. In public, we will keep this images. M1, M2, M3, M4. These are images. Okay. Let's close this now. Yeah. Let's create a design here. I will add another component here. Say mouse demo. And mouse demo.jsx. So export function mouse demo. And it will return a container. Okay. And let's keep this with a div. For, and here we are having a div. This have a class as call column 2. And this is class as already class is there row. And we have another class that is column 10. You know, you have to distribute the columns among 12. Huh? And left side, we want to display the thumbnail of images. Right side, we need to display the preview of image. So here I will keep an image. So width is some 300 and height is some 400. Okay, that is an image and we will keep this mouse demo in startup. So mouse demo is in the startup. And this is the image preview here. Left side, we want all those images. So we will maintain a separate JSON file, public. In the public folder, we will create mobiles.json, mobiles.json file. And how to create a JSON file? It is an array. Array have a object. Every object have an image underscore src, image source. And image source, we are having m1 dot what jpg. That is the image source. Like this, 4 image objects we are using. This is the second m2. And third image source is m3. And the fourth image source is m4. So we have 4 images kept in a JSON file. The image sources are kept in that JSON file. So let's go to mouse demo. Here we have to collect all the images. So we will create a constant, that is images, and we have set images. What it is? Use state. You are expecting what? You are expecting an array of object. And what that object have a key? img underscore src. It is what type? String type. That is the type of data we are expecting from a JSON file. So we need to configure. We are expecting an array of object. And that object must have a key called image src. Okay. How to load the images? We will write a function. What it is? Load images. How to access? By using Axios. We will use Axios. We learned all Ajax techniques. We will use Axios. Dot what? Get. Get from which location? URL. URL is what? Mobiles. Mobiles dot what? JSON. It is a promise. It uses what? Then we'll use a function. It will get a response. That response data we need to send into set images. Set images, what it is? Response dot what? Data. We can use fetch. You can use XML, HTTP, anything. We are going to use the React Axios. Okay, now it will get the images. When to load these images? When component mounts. How to write component mount? Use effect. Use effect is used to define the component mount. How to write use effect already we know. Now on use effect, we will load images. That means on component mount, we will load all the images. And where to display these all images? Left side, I need to display the images. We have a images dot what? Map. You have to read every image. For every image, you have to generate an img element. And what this img element should have? This img element width is 100%. And okay. And this is having src. Src is coming from image. Image dot what? Image src. It is going to use another one is we need a key. Key we will give. What is the key? The key we will give as a image. Image dot image src. That is the key we are using. Now it is going to generate the image, but this must be generated in a new line. So better I will use the class name as dblock. Dblock is an display block. And you can see all the images are here. We want the thumbnails here. Suppose width I will give 50%, then it will be small thumbnails. And we will keep as margin Y as 3, then it will have some gap between them. So you also add some just roughly border also as border and border 1 and border secondary I given. Just it will give a small border to all those images. Now what is the concept here is whenever you are using, so whenever you are displaying, this is having a class margin top as 4. some gap will come, and the height I will give as some 500. That will be fine. I think 450 looks okay. And we will keep this width as some 350. Fine. Now what we need to do when mouse is over these images, then that source must display here. That means we need to get the source and display the source, right? So now we need to write here another one. We have to declare another variable. That means another state. What is it? Preview source. Preview source I am giving. Set preview source. And this is use state, and it is a string type. It is expecting the path of image. Now, what should happen? We have to write event on mouse over of this image. This image have what? On mouse over. On mouse over. We are using on mouse over. On mouse over, we will have a function called generate preview. This function should execute. So it should point towards generate preview. And this image source we have to collect. That image source we have to collect and apply in this preview source. So what is set preview source? Set preview source is the image source that is coming from this image. How you will send this image related SRC here? That image related SRC we need to send when mouse is over. That means what we have to do? We have to use an event argument. How to collect image SRC? E dot target dot SRC. That means the current image source will be set in preview source. This preview source we have to apply in this preview image. That means this SRC comes from where? It will come from preview source. That means now important, preview source by default I can keep M1. If I keep M1 dot what? JPG, by default first image will be there. By default first image will be there. When I move the mouse on to the second image will come, the third image will come, the fourth image will come. That means we are moving and it is displaying. And of course, we can write the events CSS also we can write on mouse over. What CSS on mouse over? That image should have a small border, blue color. That's your wish. You can control that. How do you write? You add a CSS file for this. What is it? Mouse demo dot what? CSS. In that, so in the column 2 class, wherever image is present, that image have a class. You know, CSS have a hover class. On that image hover, we will put a border as 2 pixel solid and blue color border we are giving on image hover. And this must be linked. That CSS must be linked here. How to link the CSS? Import. Import, it is present in same folder, / mouse demo dot what? CSS. We have to import that CSS. Now what it indicates on mouse over, it has to get that and display. I think we are having already some border. Already that image is having a border. This image is having already a border. We'll remove this border. Border secondary and all these we will remove. And this is the default it is applying. Why? Because you know the CSS rules. What are CSS rules? If you write inline, embedded, external, which one will give first priority? Inline. It will give priority for inline. So that is the reason I removed that, and now it is working fine. This is the actions to perform on mouse over. When mouse over, if you want any action to perform, then you can define. This is just only mouse over. We have mouse over, mouse out, mouse down, mouse move like actions that we'll see in next session. In tomorrow's session, now we will see examples on different types of events. This example I will upload into the classroom, and tomorrow we will continue with other examples. We will see how to use mouse down, how to use mouse up, how to use keyboard events and other events. On all events, one example I will explain, then we can go into other concepts. These are important, right? Tomorrow we'll continue. Okay, right.